Hey, nice to be with you.
Okay, first off, Iraqi Prime Minister al-Maliki is out. He's resigned. He stepped down. What's the next role for the Iraqi government? Where do they go from here, and what is the role for the U.S. in all this?
Well, that's very good news. Actually, I just heard it here. I'm glad to hear that the president has taken this step. Look, the linchpin of securing our position in Iraq and fighting back on ISIS is a stable Iraqi government. And the problem with this president is that he did not include all of the factions in Iraq to create a more comprehensive governing structure. Without a stable government in Iraq, they're never going to be able to pick up and take on the fight themselves, which is what has to happen. There's no appetite in the United States or the ability really to go back in there with ground troops and fight off this enemy, which is a really formidable enemy, and ISIS is a much more formidable enemy even than Al-Qaeda, better funded and much more of a threat. But we can't do it really from here. We have to have an Iraqi government that's stable, and this would be a step one, I think, in what we want to see.
So President Obama obviously thought that Iraq was behind his presidency anyway, and now it's just front and center. What kind of U.S. policy do you see from here on out in regards to the crisis there?
Well, I think what we've done in the past weeks has been appropriate. First of all, we can't tolerate the elimination of people, genocide because of religious beliefs. That's not what we're about. You know, we had people stranded on the mountain without food. We had people being subject to terrible violence and threats. Beheading children because of their religious beliefs, and that can't be. So I thought that providing humanitarian aid, limited airstrikes, observers to know on the ground what's going on is appropriate. At the same time, as I said, I don't think there's any appetite. I certainly don't support sending ground troops in. We have to provide some space for the Iraqi government to get on its feet so that they can take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. You know, President Obama has been criticized for not stepping up to the plate in Syria. Had he done so, many of his critics say we wouldn't be dealing with ISIS now, including Hillary Clinton. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, it came to us last year. I don't know if you recall that because of the chemical weapons, the president said that he was going to ask Congress to authorize the use of force, and that we never actually got to that vote. A lot of us were considering whether we could do that or not. I didn't try to weaken him by announcing my opposition, but I think that the threat of that maybe helped lead to some resolution in Syria. But there's a lot of, you know, what ifs if the president had gone in earlier. That's a very, very difficult situation. I think we're always confronted with a difficult choice. I mean, how much can we take on in the United States? We have our own needs. We can only do so much. We have to count on people in those distant lands to take care of themselves. And so I think a lot of people do wish we had gone in to Syria early on and helped some of the opposition. That didn't happen for whatever reason, and now we're going to have to make the best of it.
We wanted to also ask you about the Marine that is jailed in Mexico, Andrew Tahmooressi, and has been. What is the latest on that, and what is the U.S. government doing to get him back?
Well, from what we know, this kid made a mistake by driving into Mexico, and I'd like to see him returned. I have publicly asked for that. Actually, I didn't make a big point out of it, but when the Mexican ambassador came to visit me in my office in Washington, D.C., I raised this with him, and I said, look, we understand that there are laws. Mexico has its laws. We think it's a mistake. We want to see him come back. We want him to be treated well while he's there. And if there is a legal process, we want it to occur expeditiously. This young man served our country. He deserves our support. And if he made a mistake, we'd like to see him returned.
The response was?
Well, you know, I think he was. First of all, I wasn't the only person who mentioned this to him. I think the ambassador is hearing this from other folks appropriately, I think we're making a collective impression that this is an important matter to attend to. I know that there are some hearings scheduled. And I can only tell you that we should just keep speaking up about the importance of this American to America.
And on another topic, let's talk about the Wildfire Disaster Fund. What does that act mean for San Diego?
Well, I'm really disappointed we didn't vote on this before we left. The problem in the federal government is this, is that the way the wildfire funding is set up is that we budget, the Congress, the government budgets for a certain amount of regular wildfire funding and never budgets enough. So unlike in other disasters, tornadoes or hurricanes, where we just go find emergency money, we actually take money to fight fires for the rest of the year from prevention. from prevention, which makes next year's wildfires even worse. So we have a bill, Alan, 52 Republican co-sponsors, 52 Democrat co-sponsors. I'm one of the co-sponsors, to fix that system so that when we take money, it's not from prevention. And the president's for it, and we couldn't get a vote.
Why not?
I have to say that unfortunately still politics is seizing the institution. The speaker tells us what we can vote on. I put something called sponsored a discharge petition, which if we get enough signatures would force a vote. We have 190 signatures. We just need some Republicans to join us.
So there were 52 from both sides, and you couldn't vote?
And they won't let us
because the
vote.
speaker turned it down.
Right.
Divisive Congress.
Yeah, still, and we're working on that, and we'll make progress, but it's going to take a little bit longer.